What's going on, everybody? This is Pastor Kyle Crawford, and this is another installment of Recharge Worship Survivor Series. This month, the month of October, we are focusing on people who have dealt with breast cancer on a personal level. The first week, we talked to my mom, who is 9 years free of breast cancer, and she talked about her journey and her fight and the struggle for her to make it through. The second week, we talked to my friend Justin, who talked about his mother's fight and how she ended up losing her life to breast cancer. And so we want to honor all those who have lost their lives. But he also talked about the legacy that she left behind and how he's finding strength in sharing his story and helping so many who are in that same predicament. Our third week, we talked to my friend Micah Logan, ML6, who realized that she tested positive for breast cancer when she was in her 30s, early 30s. And we talked about how breast cancer is actually more aggressive when it hits you at a younger age. And so today we want to put a cap on all of that, and we want to talk to Sister Phyllis Looney-Jones, Miss Phyllis Looney-Jones, who is going to share her story of battling breast cancer. So thank you for joining us today. We are
Hey,
super glad to have you.
it is my absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
How did you find out that you had breast cancer?
Okay, so I went to the breast center for my annual breast exam.
Mhm.
I did not find, I try to do my self exams each month. I didn't find a lump. I wasn't sick, anything weird. Nothing weird was happening to me. It was
Mhm.
just time for me to go and have my annual mammogram. And so I went. Um, and so while I was there, I was actually getting prepared to have the exam done. And I heard the Lord speak to me as clear as I'm talking to you right now. You better make sure that they're giving you the 3D. Now,
Wow.
mind you, I had the
Wow.
3D the previous year. And I made an assumption that because I had it the previous year, that I would automatically have it this year. But come to find out, it doesn't work that way.
Wow.
So once I heard God speak, I turned to my left where the technician was getting paperwork and, making adjustments to get ready to start.
Mhm.
And I asked her, I said, ma'am, I said, are you giving me the 3D? And her response to me was, no, I'm giving you the regular one. Did you sign up for it? So I went ahead and, explained to her about my assumption, thinking that I would just automatically get it since I had it previously. And then
Mhm.
she went ahead to explain that said, no, you have to ask for it every year. And
Oh
then
wow.
she goes on to ask, yes. So then she goes on to ask, well, would you like to have it? And I told her, absolutely. She stopped what she was doing, went across the hallway, I guess adjusted paperwork for insurance purposes or what have you, came back and administered the 3D. Now, mind you, at the end of the day, a week later, when I get the diagnosis, I was informed that if I had not asked for the 3D, I mean, the radiologist had looked at all the images, my oncologist eventually looked at the images, and
Mhm.
anybody that had anything to do with me medically looked at the images.
Mhm.
If I had not heard God, acted upon what He said, they would have never found it.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. Where my mass was located in my left breast, it was in a spot whereas I could have done 1,000 self exams, they would have never found it. The 2D, which is the regular mammogram procedure that they do,
Mhm.
would not have picked it up.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So I'm sure there may be people, and I've been on this journey, for 3 years now. I was a major advocate for mammograms prior to, but it's really personal now.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, I get up here and um, I tell people, people want to know what is the difference between the 3D and the
Yeah.
2D.
I was just about to
And this
ask
is
you
the best way to
that.
explain. Okay. And so this is the best way that I can explain it. Say, for instance, if you baked a loaf of bread, when
Mhm.
you put that loaf of bread in the oven and you take it out of the oven, it's just one full loaf.
Mhm.
So let's say you slice that bread into, say, maybe 5 big, nice slices. Okay.
Mhm.
That's the 2D. That's the 2D imaging. So you'll be
Mm.
able to see different spots in between those slices. But when it comes to the 3D, instead of just 5 nice slices or what have you, you could have 15.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to slice in between extra slices that you would not have seen if you only had stuck with just the 5. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
So that's
Wow.
that's basically the best way I can explain it so people can get a thorough of what it's like. So therefore, the slices you can see with the 3D more inside, of the mass and everything within that breast tissue than you could
Mm.
with just a regular 2D.
Wow, wow. And so you're saying that for, the women who are listening to this that are going for the annuals, that's something that they need to ask every single time for the 3D.
Every single time. And let me
Gotcha.
tell you, and one other thing that I really stress that women need to make sure that they are aware of, know your breast type.
Mm.
If the doctor has ever told you that you have dense breasts, which most African American women have, please, by all means, get the 3D. The 3D mammogram needs to be the standard and not an option
Wow.
because I have dense breasts. And of course, like I said, if I had not heard God and made sure I got that 3D instead of just the regular 2D, it would have never picked up.
Wow. Wow. Well, listen, we praise God that not only did he speak to you, but that you listened
Yes.
to his voice because, you know, had you not, I mean, they could have went a whole nother way.
It could have gone a whole different way,
Yeah.
because what I had was invasive,
Wow.
but God stepped in, like I said, and it's time. And that's why I encourage women, please do not forsake getting your mammograms each year. And the
Mm.
thing about it is, especially if you have breast cancer that runs in your family. Now, for me, I don't have breast cancer history in my family.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Right. So it's important. So I'm just glad, like I tell people, I am glad, I am thankful that I was one of those type of people. And I'm still one of those type of people who
Mm.
make sure that I try to do what I need to do on an annual basis as far as my health is concerned. Because
Mm.
just think if I had skipped last year, well, not last year, but in 2017,
Yeah.
had it done in 2016, had the 3D, everything was good. 2017 come around, I'm not going to worry about it. Get it the next year, totally different story. I may
Yeah.
not even be here to share this story with you today.
Wow. 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 So you get the diagnosis 2017. So we're talking about just a couple of years ago. You know,
Hmm. Three
and
years ago.
you are 3 years ago. You are a wife, you are a mother. Um
Yes.
just kind of talk about the emotion behind hearing you have cancer um at that time.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is just how good God is.
Mm.
God will choose. I truly believe God chooses people to have different things, to go through different things for different purposes.
Mm.
And I know for a fact that I was one of those He chose.
Wow.
When I got the news that I had breast cancer,
Mm.
the lady that called me, Miss Sandy Cross, she said, "Well, Phyllis, unfortunately, you do have cancer, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Okay." I said, "What do we do next?" And then she goes on to tell me what we need to look at doing. And then she
Mm.
stops and she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." I said, "I just need to know what is our next course of action." So it was me, God had already calmed me
Yeah.
and He had already spoken to me.
Yeah.
And He's like, "Look, I got you." He
Mm.
said, "Your journey and your testimony, those whose faith in me that has faded will be renewed. And those who never had it, they're going to get it."
Wow.
This breast cancer diagnosis was not even about me.
Mm.
It was just that I was a chosen vessel to be able to show God, to show the people who God was, to
Yeah.
let people know this is who He is and this is what He's doing in my life. And He can do even more for you beyond even a sickness or an illness. So
Wow.
once I got the diagnosis, of course, I had to go ahead and tell my husband,
Mm.
and talk to him and, that, it, we kind of,
Yeah.
you can imagine, that they're
Yeah.
not ready for that kind of stuff,
Right, right, right,
And
right.
so, and so I spent most of my time trying to assure my family that I shall live and not die and proclaim the works of the Lord, family
Come
and
on.
friends. Okay.
Come on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, so I told him, I said, this is what it is. Thankfully, it's in an early stage.
Mhm.
I made an appointment to go see an oncologist. And, and when I tell you God had his hand in everything from the beginning to the end. So the day that I was diagnosed, I was told that I needed to find an oncologist
Mhm.
and I need to find a surgeon, and all of this, the whole nine. So I told them, I said, well, when I go and speak with Dr. Bailey, who was my
Mhm.
OBGYN the following week, I said, I'm going to seek him on who I need to have a surgeon. Because they asked me, do you have a preferred surgeon? And I'm like, yes, I do. I said, but he retired a couple of years ago. So I'm just going to see Dr. Bailey, and whomever he refers, I said, I know that that's who I'll probably go with, because Dr. Bailey is a godly man. He's a praying man. He knows me well. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to go with whomever he gives me.
Mhm.
So anyway, I go see Dr. Bailey within the next couple of days. And I walk in and he comes in and he tells me, he said, I've already scheduled a consult with the surgeon for you for tomorrow. Now, this was on a Tuesday when I'm meeting Dr. Bailey. I got the diagnosis on a Friday. Okay. So
Wow.
from Friday to Tuesday, I'm with
Wow.
Bailey.
Yeah.
Then he has already scheduled a consult with a surgeon for the very next day. And then as we're talking, he tells me the surgeon's name, Dr. Bandy. And I looked at him and I stopped and I said, wait, Bandy retired a couple of years ago. He said, oh no, he's come out of retirement. Bailey had no idea that was my preferred surgeon.
Wow. 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 Wow.
And so I shared that with him and he was like, oh my gosh. I said, that was my preferred surgeon. I didn't know he had come out of retirement. So we're moving forward. We go the next day. I go see Dr. Bandy. We play and catch up. And he said, okay, yes, Phyllis, you got cancer, you got to have a surgery. You have to have the chemo. You have to do the radiation. And then so I stopped him. I said, hold on, what can I do to avoid the radiation part?
Hmm.
And he said, you need to have a mastectomy. And I said, okay. And he said, the mastectomy is what will keep you from having to have the radiation. And then, of course, it's an extra preventive measures to help to make sure that it doesn't come back. Not to say that it
Mhm.
wouldn't, but it's more so of a preventive measure.
Right,
And
right,
so I
right.
said, okay. So at the time, I didn't tell him that I had agreed to go with the mastectomy, but all of a sudden, I heard the Lord speak again. That's what you will do. And I said, okay. So I just kind of pondered it in my heart and kept on going. So then Dr. Bandy asked me who was my preferred oncologist. And I said, well, I don't have one. I just know of the one that my mom used. And my mom had multiple myeloma for a few years.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I said, but her oncologist is in Decatur, but I don't plan to go to Decatur back and forth for appointments. And he said, absolutely, you need one here. And I said, well, I have a friend, Elaine, I said, so she's been down this road a couple of times. So I'm going to call her and just see who she uses. So as I'm leaving Dr. Bandy's office, I call Elaine. And of course, now I have to tell Elaine what the diagnosis is, because she's going to want to know, why do I need to know about an oncologist? And so she started talking to me about Dr. John Waples over at CCI. She said that she had been with him maybe about 17 years, I guess, and said that he was a very good doctor, a godly doctor. And she said he has a great personality, and I believe you would really enjoy him. And I said, okay, that's fine. So that's who I'll go with. So I get home. I called Dr. Bandy back and I said, hey, I would like to see Dr. John Waples. And he said, oh, I know Dr. John Waples very well. I'll call him and make an appointment. I said, okay, great. So 5 minutes, he calls me back. Go see him now. Yeah, go see him now. And I asked, right now? And he said, yes, go see him right now, or either it'll be another week or so before you can get in. I grabbed my purse, walked back out the door, went to see John Waples. He was everything that Elaine said he was, great personality, godly man. And the first thing he told me, he said, I just want you to know you're going to be just fine.
Wow.
He said, we're going to get a regimen together that's going to be specially designed for you. He said, I could tell you're a little high energy. That's going to change for a minute. He said, but you're going to be okay. And I said, well, I said, the way God has moved already, I said, I have no choice but to believe that everything is going to be okay. So then he asked me this question: who is your preferred reconstruction surgeon? Well, it's not like I keep one of those programmed on my phone or anything. So
Right.
I get up there and I said, well, I don't have one of those.
Mhm.
And so he says, well, I have one for you. And I said, well, I never really thought about reconstruction surgery. I said, I just to be honest with you, I figured I'll just be fabulous and move on. And he was like, okay. He said, but let me tell you, with the insurance that you have, Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal, he said, you can go and have this done, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot of extra at all. He said, because the state of Alabama is required that because you have a breast cancer diagnosis, insurance will cover it.
Wow.
I did not know that. So, of
Yeah.
course, I go on to tell him, well, then let's talk. So he pulls
Mhm.
out his cell phone and makes a call to my surgeon, Dr. Wilson, and makes an appointment for me to go see him.
This is crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
all day, all day.
Wow.
So then the next few days, I go see Dr. Wilson, and then come to find out his right hand person is a 14-year survivor. And they all telling me, oh, you're going to be just fine, and then, of course, to make a long story short, they, assured me that if anything went awry, because, of course, with reconstruction, you could have little quirky things that happen here and there, and you may have to start
Mhm.
over the process. And I told him, I said, if I have to start over, then fine. I said, but if it becomes complicated, I'm done with it. And he was okay with that, but anyway, everything has worked out just fine. I actually have not completed the reconstruction yet. It's just that something all of a sudden I'm just not led to do at this time, but I'm okay. I'm flat and fabulous. So here we go.
So you went through you did chemo, and then you had the mastectomy, right? And then
Yes.
okay. Was there anything
No,
else that
I
you had to
no, no, actually what I did I actually ended up having the surgery first. I had my
Okay, the surgery
surgery
first.
on the
Gotcha.
27th of November 2017.
Mm,
And then I had chemo. And I know that there are some people who end up having chemo first, then the surgery. And I
hmm.
asked my oncologist, why was that? And he said, it just kind of depends on the circumstances of the individual. He said,
Gotcha.
me personally, I
Gotcha.
prefer to see where you are now and
Yeah.
then, do surgery now and then start the chemo versus doing chemo to shrink things and then surgery and then try to figure everything else out. So
Gotcha.
I had the surgery, then chemo, and then surgery, chemo, and then of course did like 6 hard rounds of the chemo,
Mm.
and didn't start having side effects until I was like almost into my fourth round.
Oh
That's
wow.
when the hair started falling off. That's when the fingernails started falling off and turning colors. My skin tone, changed, and things of that sort. But I tell you, God was still faithful in all of that, because I remembered I was out. We were in Memphis for my family reunion, and I was literally putting lotion on my feet, and one of my toenails fell off. And
Oh
God
wow.
said, I'm about to make everything brand new.
Hey, come on. Come
That's what
on.
I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I tell you God was faithful, and the thing about it is the fact that from November of 2017 up until this
Mm,
very moment, I
mm.
have been able to tell my story for his glory about the 3D imaging and how he in 3D is what saved my life. There are so many women that still are not familiar with the 3D process. And so that is my passion, is to make sure that everybody knows about 3D. I told God, I said, I'll take it to the wilderness. I'll speak out about it, and I'll teach people, and give them information that they need about, to making sure that they go out and get this 3D mammogram, because it truly saved lives.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Wow. I mean, that is amazing how you literally just saw God work that thing out immediately. Like it wasn't, one of those things where it's like, okay, you're gonna get through this and I'll
Mhm.
take you through. But it was like, no, I'm taking you through right now. Like, go see the doctor
Right.
right now. While you're here, I'm gonna make a phone call. Wow.
And let me tell you, and that's the thing about it is things happen so quickly. And that's why I
Mhm.
tell people, I said, I didn't have time to be upset. So, like I said, when I tell you that I literally spent my time trying to make sure that my family and friends were okay, that's what I
Yeah,
invested in. Once I kind
yeah.
of got my husband on board, and it's a funny story about that too, like, I'm optimistic. I already know what God has said. Now I'm telling my friends, oh, everything is well, because once I start trying to tell people about the diagnosis before I
Yeah.
even allow them to become emotional, I was like, stop. Everything is fine. This is what we got in place, blah, 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 blah. And once I tell them how everything is going to go and how everything is already set up, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Now, then when my husband was telling people about the diagnosis, it was like I almost had one foot in the grave. I got to a point, I had to tell him, I said, Kim, don't you tell another soul. You let me
Mhm.
tell the people. I said, because I'm getting phone calls from like he's talking to his friends, and then his friends' wives are calling me,
Mm.
and I'm telling them a different version. They're saying, well, the way my husband was explaining, I'm like, mm-mm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I told him, I said, now you let me explain it. And so,
Mhm.
like I said, and once I explain and let them know that, hey, this is what it is, this is where we are. It's an early stage, God's got this. We're getting ready to go through this journey. People were able to handle it a little better,
Yeah.
not to say that they were totally okay and not thinking about it and not worrying about it, because
Mhm.
also you got to remember that at the time of my diagnosis, my mom had just been buried. I had just buried my mom a couple of months prior,
Wow,
you know.
wow.
And
Yeah,
so me coming with a breast cancer diagnosis was not what my family needed to hear at that time,
right.
because they still whirling, coming off a whirlwind off my mom's death, so yeah, but like I said, God is good. We got through it. The boys, Kennard, he was a little older at the time, so he kind of understood the seriousness of it.
Mhm.
Whereas Creighton, and you got to know Creighton. Creighton was just like, okay, so you're gonna lose hair, you're gonna lose your breast, He's like, oh, okay. So even the first day that I went to have a chemo treatment and I came back home,
Mhm.
Creighton says, Mom, thought you said you were gonna lose your hair. I'm like, well, baby, it just won't come out the first day. you
That's
know.
funny. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But of course, and like I said, God kept me. There were only maybe a couple of times that I just felt physically sick. And even God is good, even with that, just how He sustained you. Now, prior to my diagnosis, I had been trying to lose 50 pounds for 2 years. But let me tell you, sister girl lost those 50 pounds doing that chemo treatment, and sister was a happy soul. Okay. I
The
said,
you
look
know
at
it
God. Even
it's
in the
it's
midst of chemo,
funny.
you will lose the
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because that was one of the things that my mom kind of looked at as well. Like, she was like, I've been wanting to drop some weight and I finally dropped it. So she was able to kind of see in
Yeah.
that she was able to see some of the positives, and she was talking about her hair when her hair, and even though there was an emotional aspect to that, one of the things that my mom was able to like look at, she was like, like my hair was like it had a lot of split ends in it, and now that it's low, like I have another opportunity to grow this thing back. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and so it's interesting just to hear um, how you motivate yourself in those moments and how you're able to see the positives in those moments. And I could just say, from being at First Church and kind of seeing, you do have a whole lot of energy and those type of things. Like it was never visible to me. I remember when I found out that you had breast cancer, you had cancer,
Okay.
and in my
Mhm.
mind I was like, but like she's
I
still
know, right?
like
Fake news, right?
I was like, but like she's still like running around here.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
no, but now I tell you, that was truly just the grace of God, because like I have, friends, my sorority sisters, and I tell you, just to give out a shout out to my church family, My sorority sisters, and I'm trying I want to name names, but I'm afraid if I start naming names, I'll mess around and forget somebody, and I don't want to do
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah,
my friends and my family members, those who were there, that helped support me through all of this. I mean, I could not have done it without you, I had, my friends that were bringing food, that were, picking me up from my treatments and things like that, and even one of my friends, Pam, she was even teasing me one day that a lot of times she like come to pick me up because she would like to see me how goofy I would be after coming out because I had that med, the Benadryl. I said, "Oh, see there's the love right there." But like she and Bobby and Lanita and Vera and Laurel and Antoinette and and the list
Hmm.
can just go on and on. And my cousins, the Burwells, and everybody, they just all just were there for me. My
Yeah,
friends from Decatur, Lisa and them, and the prayers of the righteous availeth much too. You,
yeah,
you see what I'm
yeah,
saying? And
yeah.
so that's why I tell people, make sure you surround yourself with some good prayer warriors, people that
Mm.
are going to be there in your corner and that's going to help support you and motivate you, even though they probably outside of your view over there hollering and screaming and crying still and not knowing, what's going on for real. But they are there for you. And I tell you, you
Mm.
could not have done it without them, and when I tell you for about 2, maybe 3 months, my husband did not have to worry about what we were going to eat or have to worry about trying to fix dinner because there
Wow.
were people consistently bringing us food and gift cards, and even there were people that were making sure that the boys had their favorite food, like, well, I'm gonna get them a gift card to McDonald's or places like that,
Hmm.
and things like that, and so I just I appreciate everybody, like Grandma
Yeah.
Sylvia, there were days that she came to pick me up from treatment as well, and then wanted to know, baby, you need to go eat something, and I'm like, okay, let's go eat. So it was a journey. It was a journey, and and
Mm.
it's these times that you really realize who your true blues are.
Yeah,
Those that's going to be there with you.
yeah.
And like I said, I appreciate each and every person. And the one thing about it is, I also would like to say, make sure you embrace the support system that's there,
Mm.
because a lot of people want to help. And one of the things that God had to have like a come to Jesus meeting with me about was the fact of not allowing people, not so much not allowing them, but when people
Yeah.
call you
Hmm.
and say, "Hey, do you need anything?" "No, I'm good, thank you." And one day I said that one time too many,
Hmm.
and a sorority sister had called, and she was like, "Phyllis, I just want to kind of come and maybe see if you guys need anything or whatever." I said, "No, I'm good." As soon as I hung up the phone, Laura said, "Now look, you are blocking other people's blessings. People want to do for you. You're constantly doing for everybody else. Allow people to do for you." So I
Wow.
ended up picking up that phone, calling her back and saying, "Hey, um, yeah, by the way, if you would like to still do something, I just had this come to Jesus meeting. So yeah, dinner would be fine." So then from that point on, when people called and asked, what can we do? Hey, bring dinner by. Dinner would be fine. And then you would just find out that people were just constantly bringing dinner, making sure that you had food for 2 or 3 days and things of that sort.
Mm.
And so that was a big weight off of my husband, and
Yeah.
me too, because now I know that I'm not waiting on my husband just to cook something. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
yeah.
okay, so we go through. You got people you got a community of people who are praying for you, who are taking
Mhm,
care of you and your family. Um,
mhm.
how did you feel when it was all done, or how did you get the news that it was gone?
Well, let me tell you, it was gone from day one. So when I had the surgery,
Hmm.
they removed it all then.
Okay, okay,
They
okay.
got it all.
Wow.
So going through the chemo was just just a little follow up type of thing, just to
Okay.
make sure that there weren't any floating cells or anything out there that they may have missed.
Right,
And
right.
so once I went through the 6 rounds of hard chemo, then I went through some rounds of what they call antibody treatments. And that
Mm,
was just to make sure that everything is good, that my cell counts are the way that they need to be, and that just to kind of just to build me up. And
got
so
you.
I did that from all of 2018. 2018 was the hard rounds plus the antibodies. And so I finished up my last antibody treatment in February 2019. And so
Gotcha.
had a big party. Thank God for it. We had the T-shirts made, and we
Mm-hmm.
celebrated at CCI, and
Mm-hmm.
just a time just to be able to praise God,
Yeah.
for what He had done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you've been, like as you said, you've been sharing, your story as we kind of wrap. You've been sharing your testimony of what God has done for you, and also sharing, as you said, you promised God you would tell other people about, making sure that they
Oh
get the
yes.
3D. You have something coming up that I think all the people who are going to watch this um, would love to be a part of. What do you have coming up?
Okay. What it is, my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Rho Chi Omega chapter, on Monday, October the 26th, we are going to have a panel discussion titled, What If I Didn't? And what that is going to be about is that there are going to be like 5 panelists, and we're going to talk about our journey in regards to what if we didn't do certain things. Of course, mine would be, what if I didn't hear God and get the 3D? There's going to be another panelist that's going to talk about what if she didn't do the self exams. Someone else would talk about what if she didn't have the support that she needed just to get through
Wow.
the journey.
Wow.
And then also, this is not only a woman's disease now.
That's
Men
true.
are being diagnosed with breast cancer, and
That's
we
true.
actually going to have a panelist that's a male,
Wow.
Derek Cameron, who's going to be there talking about his journey as a breast cancer survivor.
Wow. Wow. And so when
And of
when is
course,
this?
this is going to be on Monday, October the 26th. You can go to Rho Chi Omega Chapter's Facebook page, and it'll be streamed there at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time.
So listen, guys, that's a wrap for our first season of our Survivor Series, Recharge Worship Survivor Series. We have had a great time talking about breast cancer awareness. I want everybody to remember that breast cancer, although it affects Black women less than white women, we always want to remind you, especially in this series, that breast cancer kills Black women at a higher rate than it does white women. So please, 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 please make sure you are doing your personal checks. Make sure you're going to get your annuals. Make sure, from what we've heard, especially today, that you're not just getting the 2D, but you're getting the 3D. This is something, guys, that is personal to me. As you've seen, my mother went through this thing. I've got friends that have gone through this thing. I've got friends who have lost loved ones. This is a serious, serious disease, and we just wanted to raise awareness because it is something that we have the responsibility to talk about. So, guys, thank you for joining Recharge Worship Survivor Series. This is season 1. This is a wrap of season 1 where we focus on breast cancer awareness.